Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Rajesh. Mr. Mayank Kumar, Chair, FICCI New Education Providers Subcommittee. Mr. Nitin Kukreja, Co-Chair, FICCI New Education Providers Subcommittee. Distinguished speakers, panelists, committee members, partners, esteemed delegates, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to extend a warm welcome to you all to the first edition of FICCI EdTech Conclave 2024. This conclave, ladies and gentlemen, is an unmistakable testimony to the remarkable journey of our EdTech sector in the country, and our theme, Innovate, Educate, Elevate, EdTech's impact on nation building and lifelong learning, perfectly captures the transformative potential of this segment. The EdTech ecosystem in India has witnessed an exponential growth over the years, evolving from a niche segment to a cornerstone of our educational framework. As per a report published in September last year, the Indian EdTech market was valued at around $50 billion and is projected to cross $125 billion mark by the year 2032, growing at a rate close to 11% per annum. As of September 2023, the top 4 EdTech companies in the country combined put together had over 200 million users on their EdTech platforms, and India houses more than 16,000 EdTech companies, both established as well as startups combined. This growth is driven by innovative solutions of a wide range that cater to personalized learning and making education more accessible as well as inclusive. However, as you all may be aware, this journey has not been without its hurdles and challenges. The digital divide remains a significant challenge or barrier, if I may say so. In addition, data privacy and security concerns need most urgent attention. Ladies and gentlemen, despite these challenges, EdTech has played a pivotal role in transforming India's educational landscape. It has worked towards democratizing learning, enabling students from diverse backgrounds to access quality education. This has been particularly evident during the COVID-19 pandemic, where EdTech platforms ensured continuity in learning for over 300 million students and users. The government has, of course, played a critical role in this transformation. Initiatives like Digital India Campaign and the National Education Policy 2020, which emphasizes the use of technology in education, have, I must say, provided robust framework for integrating technology in education. Before closing, I would like to say that the EdTech revolution in our country is a journey of innovation, resilience, and collaboration. It is a journey that is transforming lives, building our nation's talent capital, and positioning India as a global leader in education technology. Together, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed delegates, let's continue to innovate, educate, and elevate. Once again, I would like to welcome you all to this conclave. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. I'll request Mr. Nitin Kukreja, Co-Chair, FICCI, New Education Providers Subcommittee, and CEO, Alan Currie Institute, to deliver his special address, please.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first FICCI EdTech Conclave. Thank you for coming, and it's my privilege and honor to be here. We have the largest education system in the world, 265 million students, 1.5 million schools, 100% GER in elementary schools. Since independence, we've made huge strides in expanding access to education. But is access the only goal? What about the quality of education? The reality is that there still exists a massive education deficit in the country. A deficit that threatens our future prosperity and endangers the demographic dividend that the country can reap. The facts are stark, and COVID has only exaggerated the problems further. At the higher secondary level, the GER drops to 58%. Even more worryingly, the foundational abilities of students, as brought out by the Acer reports, are stark as well. In 14 to 18-year-olds, 1 out of 4 students still cannot read standard 2-level text in their own language. Over half of the children struggle with simple division, 3-digit by 1-digit, a skill usually expected by standard 4. In the 6 to 14 age group, reading ability has dropped to pre-2012 levels, and basic arithmetic levels have declined to 2018 levels. Clearly, there is a lot more to be done. The National Education Policy 2020 is a great start to addressing some of these challenges before us. It highlighted the need for change, especially given that the last policy was 35 years old. More importantly, it brought in a fresh approach on how to think about curriculum, career options, and the use of technology. Yet, we need to do much more to capitalize on this initiative and take the next steps quickly. As always, it needs a fresh mindset and a set of clear objectives to address the challenges that face us. So what is the change that is needed? To truly democratize quality education in India, we need a new model, one that embraces the following key elements. 1, we have to unleash the power of technology. Just as technology has revolutionized banking, telecom, and other industries in India, it can be the great equalizer in education. Let us accept that not every student will have access to a physical institution offering great quality education. But interestingly, as the Acer report itself points out, 90% of the 14 to 18-year-olds have a smartphone in the household and know how to use it. In fact, 2/3 of them have actually used it for some educational activity, such as watching videos related to studies, resolving doubts, or exchanging notes. So why not leverage this? This is where the smart use of technology can come in, to not only overcome the physical limitations of a brick and mortar business, but also to overcome the other limitation of a brick and mortar setup, that of offering a consistent and high quality standardized offering to a mass of students. In today's world of AI and rapidly evolving Gen AI, technology can be the disruptor and a complete change agent, where we can personalize the experience for every individual student while delivering the quality experience to everyone. Imagine a world where Ajay in Moradabad does his school homework on his tablet or phone. His mistakes are quickly analyzed for errors, and a root cause analysis shows how many conceptual errors he made and how many silly mistakes he made. Then for each of these points, a remedial is available to him to improve his concepts, along with an instant support for any further doubt resolution and to be followed up with more practice around the same concepts. Now imagine a world where this is available to every student, whether they are in Moradabad, Bhagalpur, Latur, or Guntur. Imagine a world where we are able to provide a 1:1 digital tutor to every student so that they can fulfill and even maximize their individual potential. Let no student be left behind. EdTechs in India have already initiated conversations on personalized learning and in using AI and data analytics to tailor learning experiences to individual needs, making education more engaging and more effective. But we have the opportunity to leapfrog the West and create a uniquely Indian model of education, fit for the 21st century. The choice before us is whether we want to be led by the world in the use of technology or actually lead the world and show the world how technology can be used to make a difference in the world of education. All this, getting the right technology tools, bringing in great talent, developing solutions and great products to solve these issues, all of this will need capital. Therefore, point number 2, we need to welcome private capital, but with the appropriate regulatory framework and the appropriate regulatory guardrails. There is already a clear realization that we cannot rely solely on public resources to solve our education deficit. Private schools already account for nearly 50% of new enrollments in India. It's held back with the present set of issues on ability and more worryingly so, at times even with credibility. It is time to streamline regulations to enable participation from institutions. In this, the biggest change, however, that is needed is a recognition that profit is a legitimate motive for anyone providing capital. Even now, let's acknowledge that the many or most of the private schools running in the country are not being run for charitable purposes, and that there is a clear profit motive out there. Our not-for-profit legacy in education must evolve to accept this reality. The perception that profit motives are incompatible with education quality must be challenged. Profit can drive innovation, attract talent, ensure sustainability, and eventually deliver more consumer value. By creating a conducive environment for private investment, we can encourage us educational institutions that cater to the diverse needs of our population. At the same time, the regulatory framework should bring in the right guardrails around quality of service to ensure consumer interest is protected, and some of the mistakes that the industry has made in the past are not repeated. Together, the use of technology, the welcoming of private capital with a profit motive, and again, with the right regulatory environment and guardrails, we can start us out on the journey of providing quality education to the millions of students in India and eventually transforming millions of lives ahead. We can draw parallels from other industries in India where private participation and technological advancements have led to remarkable transformations. For instance, consider the evolution of mobile internet in India. In 2012, India had about 860 million mobile subscribers and virtually no mobile internet users. Fast forward 10 years, and while the number of mobile subscribers has grown 1.5 times, we have added a staggering 850 million mobile internet users. In fact, the number of active internet users in rural India now exceeds that in urban India. This massive scale of internet access has unlocked a large number of life-changing use cases across financial inclusion, social connectivity, commerce, media consumption, healthcare delivery, agri-tech, and many more. Now compared to the days 30 years back, and those of us with some gray hair will relate to those days, where getting a fixed line phone was an achievement, and getting any sort of connectivity in rural areas was unthinkable. This transformation was made possible by the combined efforts of private sector innovation and an enabling policy framework. Similarly, let's talk about our payments framework and UPI. In only 8 years since its launch in 2016, UPI now powers 1 in every 3 transactions in India. At this scale, India's digital transactions are equal to all the remaining countries of the world combined. This transformation was again made possible by the combined efforts of private sector innovation and an enabling policy framework. Again, compare this to 30 years back, where to make a payment to someone in another city meant cutting a check or sending a money order or some such solution like that, which used to take a few days for the money to be credited, with all the associated risks of physical interfaces like lost checks, etc. So why are we choosing to live in the 1980s when it comes to education? In summary, India's education deficit is a ticking time bomb that threatens our demographic dividend. We cannot afford to ignore it any longer. Solving this challenge will require courage, innovation, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. The stakes are high, but so are the rewards. The ingredients are in place. For the right objectives, private capital is ready to come in. The latest developments in technology, particularly those in Gen AI, are nascent, but have the power to transform the way we educate our future generations. All we need is an enabling policy structure. Let us unleash the power of technology to bring forth an education system worthy of India's promise and potential. Let us have a supporting and enabling regulatory structure that enables this potential to be unleashed, but has the right guardrails in place so that there is no misuse. Let us be the leaders in the world on showing how to do it. The time is right. The time is now. Thank you. I look forward to a day of engaging discussions.
Thank you, Nitin. So we'll have our first panel session started. Just a piece of information. So there's a position paper that we've come up with, which we'll formally release at the hands of CEO, National Skill Development Corporation, Mr. Ved Bani Tiwari, who would be joining us during the course of the day. Madhur is going to moderate the session. Madhur, over to you.
Okay. Yeah. So good morning, everyone. My name is Madhur. Warm welcome to the first FICCI Conclave. Thank you to FICCI for organizing this extremely productive session. Honored to be a moderator in the current session. Nitin, everybody knows you by now, but if the other panelists can please introduce themselves, that'll be great, and then we can kick off the proceedings. We'll start with you.
Sure. Hi everyone. My name is Bimal. Glad to be here today. I work with ADA 247. I'm the CEO of the skilling and higher education business. Joined them about 2 months back. Prior to that, I was with Wipro for about 10 years, post which I moved to Manipal Education and built multiple skilling and training businesses. The most prominent one of them is the banking training business, which I'm sure many of you would know. And then in 2018, I moved to NIIT and I was heading their India business for the last 5.5 years. Glad to be here amongst all of you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Gautam. I'm the CEO of the global EdTech business at Prosus. Prosus is a global investor across many domains, one of which is EdTech. Previously, we were called NASPER. Some of you may be more familiar with that name, but we've invested significantly in India. Personally, I've been involved on the investing side and in EdTech in less than a year, but I've done a variety of operating roles all across the world before that. But I've been very involved in the consumer tech sector, starting out from as early as 2000 as a founding management team member of a company called Bazi.com, some of you might remember, and then worked with eBay in the US and a variety of other tech startups in the consumer tech space. So very excited, as Nitin said, to see what the potential transformation technology can bring to this space, and then from an investor lens, what we can do to make this happen. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and for me, my name is Madhur Singhal. I'm a CEO of a new age consulting firm which does a lot of education and edtech work called Praxis Global Alliance. Before this, I've done this role for 7 years. Before this, I was a management consultant at Bain & Company, where I was a partner, and before that with Boston Consulting Group. So, that quick intro on me. So maybe we kick off the proceedings. Gautam, maybe start with you a little bit and talk about, the topic for today is about educating the billion, and so therefore creating impact at scale and education outcomes at scale. From all the global work that you've done, can you talk a little bit about how you've seen education be more effective at scale and use of technology and some of the models that you've seen? Just maybe kickstart the proceedings with global experience.
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, Prosus is a global investor. We have invested over $4 billion in various edtech companies across the world. The reality of it is our investments are down. So this is not a great moment for investment. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But there's been a ton of learnings over the last 5 years or so that we have been investing in this space. Traditionally, when people say edtech, there is a nice feel-good sort of image that comes, oh, we're going to make impact, we're going to transform things. And most people think of it as K-12. How do you get young children? How do you get access? But the reality is there are many facets. There's the K-12, there's the higher education, there's the skilling, there's the upskilling, there's the world is changing. How do you transform, right? One of the things we've learned is that there are many business models. Emerging markets are somewhat different from, we invest a lot in other markets as well. We haven't, if you think about the opportunity, each of these spaces has an opportunity. We started out investing much more like in marketplace-like models, companies like Udemy, etc. We sort of spent a lot of time on consumer-facing products, companies like Brainly and GoStudent that we've invested in Europe. And we realized that monetizing, I'm going to talk about the challenges as well and the different models, but monetizing in consumer-facing businesses in K-12 is not that simple. It's probably where the most impact is, but it's not that simple, partly because children are the users, parents are not fully aware of what's going on. They much more prefer physical, etc. So the transformation process takes time. In a lot of countries, working with schools involves working with governments, and so that takes long lead times. You need to have the patience. So what is happening right now is that, especially in this funding climate, people are looking at models which are more easily monetizable, which means outcomes are very important, and those are very apparent in things like test prep, or they're very apparent in things like higher education, or places that sort of allow you to improve your jobs. People are looking at areas where monetization is easy. So B2B and SaaS type plays are starting to become much more important. We have invested in many companies across the world in this area. They all have their challenges, but I think where we are seeing the thread coming is that in this today's world, I think sort of if you want to build a large edtech company, the product market fit and monetization need to be hand in hand very early. I think a lot of people believe that we can make money later. That's not going to cut it today. There's a lot of effort that's required that needs to be on technology, because I think outcomes can only be improved if technology is used significantly. I know some of the people here are doing a lot more of that. And the last thing I'll say is that, there is a real notion, I think people ignored it for too long, that education is going to be transformed or dramatically affected by AI. Because historically, a lot of education was content. It was people creating content, and that's all it was. And now content creation is going to be fast, simple, and machine-led. So it's not going to be about the pure content anymore. It's about what you do with the content. It's about how you use the data of how content is being used to personalize and do more and more. We had a couple of companies that got completely disrupted. This company called Stack Overflow, which in the engineers used it a lot for learning and fixing problems. We had a company called Brainly, which was a Q&A, solving students' doubts. All of this is going to get transformed because the machines are going to get better and better at doing it. And so I think we are in a moment of, I would say, profound change because of all of these things. And people who can adapt and embrace the fact that there is going to be a need for outcomes, there is going to be technology. There will need to be hybrid models. I don't think in education for a long time to come, it's going to be completely online and tech and digital. But I think thinking through all of these, the moment is now, and we still believe that in the long term, this is such a massive space, and the outcomes that you can achieve here can be transformational and will be worth it. But there's some time that it's going to take.
No, excellent. And maybe on that point, Nitin, you practically run one of the sharpest AI Q&A engines, as a part of Alan or the broad enterprise that you're leading, and you also run the largest offline network, doing education. So Gautam spoke about this mixing, sort of offline, online, use of AI and machines becoming more and more important. How do you see this confluence or turbulence, right? It depends on how you look at it. But how do you see this panning out, and what are the business benefits or social benefits this is accruing?
Sure. So I think hybrid was a very misunderstood concept for some time. There will be students who come to a physical classroom. There will be students who come to an online classroom. But that depends on physical access. That depends on proximity, etc., etc. But tech can play a part in every student's journey, whether you're in a physical classroom or in an online classroom. So at Allen, we have many physical centers across the country. But if you can't make it to a physical center, you can join our online programs. Having said that, the out of classroom journey is common. So every student is going to have doubts, is going to need some practice, will want to do homework, will need some mentoring. So that journey is completely common for every student. And that's where the biggest change that we are trying to make in terms of then starting to capture data and then saying, why are you going wrong? How can we help you improve? You made a mistake. The example that I was giving, you made a mistake in your homework. Why did you make that mistake? What's the root cause? And start solving some of those points below. The personalization aspect also comes in over there. You may have made a mistake 2 years back on a certain homework, on a certain concept, but the machine will remember it. And if you make that mistake again, it can help you rectify it. But all of this, and again, there is a fundamental mindset difference as well, because ultimately people are looking for outcomes. Whether you go to a physical setup, whether you go to your local tutor, whether you go to a skiller, whether you go to any place in higher education, you're either looking for entry into a better college, you're looking for entry into a better job. If you're in the job, you're looking for a higher salary. So ultimately, you have to be very sharply focused on outcomes. And I think that is the fundamental thing as we look back on mistakes that the industry has made in the past. From becoming sales and marketing machines, ultimately you need to deliver that consumer value on outcomes. And that is the biggest change that is.
Yeah, along with outcomes, I'll also talk about inclusion a little bit. But while we are on the topic of outcomes, Bimaljit, I know you do a lot of skilling, and you've run India's largest sort of banking / financial services skilling provider. You've been with NIIT, now with Adda. Talk to us a bit about how what role has technology played to influence outcomes, and what. How do you even measure outcomes and attribution of that to tech? Just talk to us a bit about that.
No, so firstly, I'm going to pick up on what Nitin said about sharply defining outcomes, and I generally use the word being very deliberate and very direct on the outcomes. And I think I for now believe that every stakeholder, whether it is the enterprise as an employer, or the learning providers, or even the learners, I think are pussyfooting around the outcomes. Right? I have worked very closely with many enterprises, and I think enterprises try to many times disguise these learning interventions or training interventions as employee engagement, access being made of huge libraries to them. I think they have to become very direct that every investment that is being made into learning of an employee has to result into a very direct impact on productivity. I mean, it could be productivity, it could be attrition, it could be demonstrating higher skills, it could be improving your billing rates, etc., etc., etc. Similarly, I think learning providers, the whole part around making huge libraries and access available, I think that got questioned. Many people thought access will be outcomes. That in itself got challenged, that access did not even lead to consumption, forget outcomes, right? And that's a struggle both enterprises and providers faced. And similarly, learners, I think just the awe of showing that I have earned this certification and putting up on your LinkedIn, on your Facebook, etc., without really learning the skill, hopefully might just get you the job, but you will fail in the job very soon, right? So I think just being very deliberate and direct on the outcome, I think is the first starting point, right? Now coming to your specific question on where technology can play a role, I think given that we are largely talking of the higher education space, actually, at least I will talk about the higher education in the skilling space. Part of the whole skilling is really practicing, right? I mean, you learn a skill by practicing. Beyond a point, it is not about knowledge, and you got to learn that skill, and you have to then demonstrate your skill at your workplace or whatever your area of operation is. And I think practice is where technology is gonna ease out a lot of things. I mean, just to give an example, Nitin spoke about tech being available as a problem solver. Today, say for example, if you were to learn customer interaction, say for example, right? I mean, given the number of roles that are coming in customer facing or customer service roles, earlier what would happen in a classroom is that a trainer or a faculty would do a role play with one individual or two individual, and it is assumed that everyone else would have understood what's happening, right? And some amount of debriefing around that role play will happen. But today, with the use of, and typically those scenarios are also scripted scenarios, right? But today, with the use of AI, every individual in that class or that session can do unlimited role plays in unscripted scenarios, right? So there are dynamic scenario creations that AI can do, right? And everyone can practice. So there are multiple ways like that, Madhur, that technology will play a part. But just giving an opportunity for an individual to practice multiple times. I mean, so skilling is eventually, you have to demonstrate a skill, and you can only demonstrate a skill like cooking or baking or playing cricket or anything by practicing. And I think technology will give us that space.
I think I think one part around outcomes is really ensuring livelihood success or educational success, right? If you can increase, the incomes of people, they would tend to invest in technology, and education. One of the things that we talk about a lot, is how technology increases efficacy of education and absorption of learning, absorption of concepts, thereby making you better, more skillful, which should then over time lead to increased livelihood. And there is another thing around reducing cost of access, right? So we can't have the best teacher who's available in Delhi to also be in Bhagalpur. But Nitin alluded to this in his speech as well. Can we use technology, to increase access and inclusion? Nitin, given that you've been running centers literally pan-India, and you've been using some tech, how has that response been, and what are some of the challenges? I know it's not been a cakewalk to set up the 500th center, in a nook and corner of the city, because the economics still needs to justify itself, etc. But have you seen the industry create more access because of lowering costs and increasing efficacy at the same time? Just talk to us a bit about the opportunities and the challenges in this whole sort of theme about, hey, use tech, increase access.
Again, access is there, right? And in today's world, YouTube is available everywhere. Gautam spoke about content being the first wave of education materials being provided. But it's how you start using that content and how you start personalizing journeys. I think that is the wave that has to start happening, because again, that is what will lead to outcomes. And I still say outcomes remains, I think Bimal was also talking about the same thing, that outcomes, the sharp focus on outcomes has to be the cornerstone of whatever you're building on. Whether it's a physical center, and yes, you can keep opening physical centers. The edtechs of yesterday also first solved for access. Put a great teacher in front of a camera. But that's not learning alone. Just putting a teacher in front of a camera was never going to lead to learning, because there are so many. Learning is a complex process. There are many loops to it. Practicing is one, testing is another, doubt resolution, etc., etc. So till you don't complete that entire learning loop, and for a lot of the physical establishments, they've done that in a physical setup. But there are only so many there are limitations to scaling up a physical setup. You can't have a physical establishment or a physical institution running in every corner of India and be fully guaranteed that it is going to give you the same quality output.
Yeah.
So the two need to be going together, and that is where tech will start playing that part to provide standardized quality. I spoke in my speech about UPI. Your experience in whichever part of India that you are in, your UPI experience is the same as mine.
Yeah.
And that is the kind of standardization and quality that you need to start bringing into education.
See, another point when we speak about outcomes, and we know that education is mostly sort of evidence-based advertising, evidence-based. Professor, we're talking about XYZ rank in XYZ exam, and that's sort of that's also outcomes, right? And talking about. Bimal, very quickly, have you seen too much of attribution to tech, and have you been able to link outcomes with use of technology, or providing better access, thereby tapping better talent, thereby increasing overall outcomes for businesses you've been a part of, or has that not happened yet? And if not, why?
So overemphasis on technology, definitely yes. Both emphasis and glamorization and everything else. So I think that definitely happens. And again, I think people start overlooking the end outcome and start getting glamorized by the use of technology, or just, like we've spoken, just access being made available. Right. So, the whole MOOC waves, and many of us have known what happened with the MOOC wave in terms of, access, and then the consumption was a big struggle, etc. Right. But like you also said, technology is a great tool. Access is at scale. Access at scale is something that only technology can solve. No amount of physical presence. And given at Adda, say for example, we do significant work in tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 cities, right? And obviously, physical infrastructure would have a lot of economical challenge. Today, say for example, we help people prepare for tests and exams which are at state level exams, where at times a notification of that exam, because we work very heavily in the government space, the notification of that exam will come once in 4 years. Right? Now, I cannot have a physical center, or I cannot manage economies around a test which is happening once in 4 years, say for example, which is a test which is very niche, say for example, in a particular state, a smaller state, which again the numbers are not very large, but we still have to solve for those problems, right? There's still people aspiring for those jobs. There's still those positions have to be filled, right? And those problems of access in the remotest part of the world can only be solved by technology. And the fact is, we've demonstrated those outcomes. We've demonstrated those outcomes where, despite learning from a distance, of course, you have to create the entire ecosystem around it. But despite learning from ecosystem, the amount of, pass percentage of people who are actually clearing those exams continue to grow year on year. Right? So those outcomes are getting delivered. At the same point in time, like I said, there is this risk of getting over enamored by the technology.
Yeah, no, in fact, it's very interesting that the biggest enemy of technology is better technology, right? And that's what we are seeing. Gautam alluded to it a little bit about Stack Overflow, which, supposedly an awesome tool, competing GitHub and whatnot. And now, use the word saying, this is actually been. So, where is private capital going to move in? And Nitin also spoke about this in his speech. What's this next wave of innovation or investments in education or educational technologies? What are you seeing globally from your vantage point? And if you can advise the room on what are the top 2 areas, for example, that you're saying, okay, this is where the next wave of investment should come.
Yeah, look, I've been an operator most of my life. I've been an investor for 1 year, so I still have a little bit of healthy disrespect for investors, because they sort of move in waves and cycles, right? To be honest. And right now, if you attach AI in front of your deck, then, you get a meeting, right? If you don't get a meeting. You probably have nothing to do with AI with what you're doing. So I would be careful this is I think it's a moment where people are still figuring out what's going to work, right? So, and one of the things I'd say is, and we've seen many examples of this, for a company that is in EdTech or any sector or that is starting out, raising money should not be equated to success. What is the product market fit, and can you monetize that and make money? I think that is success, right? Because you might get lucky, you raise money, and then you just make some money, but you're probably not going to have that business without those things. So for me right now, I think the way I look at it, the investment climate is not particularly great. Profitability and do you use AI are sort of the two big themes. So if you want to be pragmatic about it, do you have a path to profitability? How is AI transforming your space? What are you doing to leverage it? What advantage do you have? Are things that you need to keep in mind. But I think the fundamental thing, if you take, I always tell people, if you're in EdTech, you should be in EdTech for the right reasons, because you believe that there is impact to be made and there's a long-term piece, and you will make money when you do that, right? And so the way I think about it is, yes, have this profit mindset, etc. But what problem are you solving? What is the consumer sort of real issue and outcome that you're going to deliver? And by the way, can you leverage technology in any form to demonstrate scale? I think those are the things that you keep in mind. I think these guys alluded to saying not technology for technology's sake. I think that's exactly right. You can get caught up and enamored. Many of you may know, I used to be in the US at the time. Sal Khan, who runs Khan Academy, he's a family friend. I knew him well. He gave up his hedge fund job, went into his closet and started making videos. This was way back. People were like, this is crazy stuff. But now I'm teaching my son with the Khan Academy videos, and he's not doing it for money. He's doing it with belief. He's building whatever he's building. It's great content, but he started personalizing it. He started, seeing what it is that kids are doing well, giving them the feedback. So I think you should think of that model. You're solving a problem, and then you're using the technology to make things better. In the short term, be pragmatic if you're looking to raise money, but unless there's a fit, you're not going to survive.
No, excellent point. Nitin, you've been using, perhaps some technology in classrooms, beyond classrooms, also, post-classroom support, pre-classroom prep, pre-exam prep. How do you see learners and teachers respond to tech? Because one of the things that we've done in K-12, the biggest hindrance to this is actually the teachers not being ready, right? It's not, students are ready. Our kids are actually readier on tech than we are. But, talk to us a bit more about the ecosystem and where do you think things break down if they do?
So you're spot on. Teachers are resistant. Okay, I've been to town halls where people say, "Sir, AI mera, digital mera naukri kha jayega kya?" So, whereas you tell them, look, the teacher's role has evolved. 30 years back, you used to check homework, and you spent hours checking homework and test papers. Today, you just put it into an OMR machine, the test result comes out very quickly, and then you start focusing your time on what you're supposed to be spending time on, which is saying, okay, where have you made a mistake? Child, where have you made a mistake? I can help you do that. But yes, there is an inherent resistance to technology. Students, on the other hand, are like this. Okay? Again, as I was talking in my speech, they know how to use the phone. Yeah. They know how to use it. They're using it. So all we need to give them is the right tools. And just to give you an example, and to your point, what did they love? 2 or 3 of the big features that we've introduced where adoption is high, we put in a customized test. You want to test yourself on certain topics, create the test yourself. And kids have taken to it like ducks to have taken to it. We personalized by saying, okay, you've done your homeworks. This is your collection of mistakes that you've made. Okay, last year or 3 months back or wherever. So come the test or come another exam, it's a quick revision for you to see where all did you go wrong. And again, kids love these features. So bring in the right tools. Again, the lens very clearly is, how can I help you improve? Look, in a physical world, in an offline world, you go even to your local tutor. The parent sends the child to the local tutor saying, maths mein iske sirf 50 aa rahe hain 100 mein se, please thoda help kar do. If the child goes from 50 to 80, that's the outcome, and the tutor is a great tutor. If the child stays at 50, you're not a great tutor. So ultimately, again, it comes down to the features that you build in and the things that you build in. Kids are there to learn. Kids are looking for outcomes. Parents are looking for outcomes. Build in features that will deliver those outcomes and strengthen that learning journey.
It's interesting because, for K-12 students, perhaps what we said is true, but for skill learners, right, a little more rudimentary, little less flexible in learning. And skilling now is a journey. It's not just about clearing the bank PO and then becoming, having an unconstrained path to career progression. Any differences in opinion you have, Bimaljit, basis your experience, dealing with bank aspirants and financial services trainees or learners?
So the challenge on the trainer side, which is the faculty side, continues to be very similar. Though I must accept it is diminishing now, and it is also diminishing given our learning of engaging more younger faculty or faculty which is more, and at least in our experience, there are two parts to it. One is your willingness to use tech to train, and also your ability to use tech to engage the learners, right? Because it is not only your willingness, it is also your ability to engage. And I think that's where a lot of younger faculty, also given because, bulk of the skilling work happens for a particular context or for a particular industry, we obviously tend to engage the practitioners who come from that industry or that experience. And hence a combination of these three is really hard to find. So somebody who's a practitioner from the industry is willing to work with technology and equally skilled to engage an audience, right? On the learner side, again, when at least I started my journey in this industry, which was way back in 2011, the input that we were getting in then obviously was not the digital age input, right? And hence there was this very initial struggle around getting them to use tech. But the input which is coming now, I think, again, great amount of willingness, and obviously, they've used tech, they've used phones, they've used some of the devices. Having said that, we must also be aware that a large part of work that is still happening, especially around the skilling space, and especially for people who are job aspirants, is also happening for people who may not have been very motivated learners by themselves, right? And that's where probably they need a bridge, and hence the learner motivation himself, right? The learner willingness to, because again, digital is about, while it will do all the right things in providing you content, but your own motivation and your own engagement, I think those are continued challenges where we are evolving. And again, a lot of technology is coming to help us with that. But those are challenges which, how involved, how engaged, how motivated is the learner, are challenges we are continuing to face.
So I think interestingly, see the topic for this panel, one part of education, I think Nitin also referred to, is about personalizing the learning, because even 20 years back, 40 years back, parents would look at teacher-student ratio in a classroom, which is indirectly saying how personalized will the learning be, or how much attention will I get from the teacher, per student, right? Because they have certain, finite units of time in a classroom. Now, it's the concept of personalization, and the fact that personalization is important, meaningful. It'll push students who might not be self-motivated. I think that's a given. Are we seeing, and I think probably, Gautam, what you also said is education for the sake of education. That's not going to work, because, tech alone cannot solve for everything, right? I think that's the fundamental premise. And so what we're also saying is that tech, needs to weave into the ed part of the edtech of the education, right? And so the learners, the teachers, the materials, the journey. Have you seen any interesting hybrid innovations appear globally, right? Any success examples, even half successful, where you would say, hey, look at this use case. This is truly driving personalization. And I know China was one example where unfortunately the government came and sort of killed the innovation. But anything else that you've seen?
Look, I think it's, in my mind, it's less about success or not at this point, because I think because of AI, everybody's trying a lot of things. One theme we see, it's too early to say whether it's going to work or not, and one of our companies in Europe called GoStudent is going down the path now. The theme we see is we look at K-12 as, loosely speaking, morning market and afternoon market. Sort of morning market is when you're in school physically, and of course there are technology things that are happening, infrastructure, operating systems, teachers are leveraging to become better. And the afternoon market is the traditional tutor market, right? And in the afternoon market, I think we are seeing companies attack what they're calling the AI tutor, and sort of saying that, look, the school is going to be the school. In the school, you actually need to train and make the teachers far better in leveraging technology, because that's how you'll deliver it to the students. But in the afternoon market, you need to design it and personalize it and customize it for the students. And I think that there's a, in the investing areas, they talk about race for the AI tutor. And we are starting to see some of that potentially come alive, because you sort of segment the market differently. You're not trying to teach them everything. You're actually trying to, what Nitin said, around their challenges, their doubts, their mistakes. And that's where I think the afternoon market, personalized and AI, is something that we think could become big.
Yeah, please.
Look, I think if there is a morning market and an afternoon market, the real power can be unleashed when the two are together. Because the child has learned something in the morning and is making some mistake in the afternoon. You can marry the two, and this is where the power of data. AI will depend on data, and the machines will get smarter the more data that you put in them. So the more data and data points that you can bring in from the morning market as well as the afternoon market, that's where the real power is going to come from. That's what we are trying to solve at Allen, to say, okay, you've learned this in the classroom, now do this homework, and now let me get a lot of data out of that and see how many people made that mistake. Okay, if the entire class got it wrong, then my material is wrong. If only this class got it wrong, or this section got it wrong, maybe the teacher did not teach it wrong. But if only 2 students got it wrong, then they probably could not understand the concept. So I think ultimately, while AI is a good word, it will depend on data, and the more data points that you'll be able to bring in, that's where the whole power will be unleashed.
And Nitin, actually 2 follow-on questions to that, especially in your test prep and K-12, G8 to 12 context. One, is the parent resistance broadly done? Are parents absorbed that personalization and technology in education is like UPI, I need to use it? Point number 1. Point number 2, investments that you are committing in your business, are you allocating more and more dollars to these tech build-outs, to making the teacher more effective, to make assessments more personalized, and so on? Just talk to us on those 2 aspects.
See, parents are looking for personalization. As you said, people used to ask student-teacher ratios. Even if you're sending someone to the afternoon market, as Gautam said, how many teachers in that tutorial? Is it 5 students, 6 students? I think in the tech world, and it goes back to some of the experiences of the past few years, parents are skeptical. So I think as outcomes start coming, that is where the skepticism will go away. What was your second question?
Yeah, the second is investments that you're committing to technology there.
Investments, again, I think it's a cultural piece, first of all, to say, be very sharply focused on outcomes. Okay, develop features which better the outcomes. So investments are going in those aspects rather than in anything else.
Got it. And same question, are you seeing in the higher ed or employability space? I don't even consider you in the education space, right? The employability space, are you seeing the same?
Yeah, so I think the challenges are same, right? I mean, whatever you want to call it, funding winter, or and all the learning, right? So I mean, the part that we discussed earlier, that CTO or CPO or whatever was the most enamored role, and whatever those folks were asking for, and those investments were getting approved. And I think right now more granular questions are being asked, and like you said, that what would this certain feature bring in terms of outcomes, in terms of learning outcomes, their experience, and hence in the process of delivering those outcomes, and because those outcomes would be sharply measured, in the process of that, greater credibility for the outcomes that the organization is delivering. So I think that those questions are being asked much more in any investment decision versus saying launch AI for the sake of launch.
No, excellent. I think we're at the top of the 45 minutes that were allotted to us. This has been very enlightening. We spoke about, technology's role in creating access. We very quickly jumped to, don't do tech for the sake of tech. It needs to create outcomes. From outcomes we sort of spoke about. The outcomes have to be measured. Outcomes ultimately are enabled through offline and online, and the role of the stakeholders, the parents, the teachers, the students. All of that needs to come together, and the efficacy of each of these participants. We didn't talk about it. Out of time, we had spoken about data that's given to parents as a part of this journey and so on. We didn't really get into that. And then we were sort of speaking about investments, even though the private investments might not be as excited about EdTech, or at least cautious about EdTech as we speak. I think incumbent upon education providers to continue investing behind innovation and behind R&D overall, right? Might be AI, might be non-AI, it doesn't matter. But to all of you as the audience, you've been very patient. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you to the panelists for sharing very candid perspectives. This has been excellent. I thoroughly enjoyed moderating all of you, learned a lot myself. Thank you so much for creating this opportunity. That depends on time. Okay, if you have time, then no problem. I thought we're running out. Okay, looks like we have a bit more time, so we can take some questions also if you guys are okay. Okay, sure.
If there are any questions, we can take one or two of them.
Yeah, excellent. Yes.
We'll just take this one.
It's exciting when Byju's is mentioned, everybody looks at me, but no, it's fine. Look, I think it's a good question. I think the reality of the matter is in every industry, there have always been incumbents, right? There's no industry. I mean, if you look, now we take things for granted, right? We take a Facebook or a Google or a Amazon for granted, but retail existed, it's got disrupted, right? Yellow Pages existed, it's got disrupted. So I don't actually think of the fact that there are large incumbents who can swallow you as the challenge. Because I think one of the things is that the incumbents have their own issues. They have legacy ways of doing things. They don't adopt technology. They need to give up a lot of current business to move to the future. Whereas a startup, has no fear because they had nothing to start with, right? So I don't think the incumbent issue is the challenge. I think in EdTech, one of the challenges has been over the last few years when money was cheap, everybody got a lot of cash and thought that they could do anything, and the fundamentals were ignored. So it's not really, it's not specific to EdTech, to be honest, but at the same time, I think if you're a founder or if you're a small company, what problem are you solving? How fast can you prove that your solution is able to tackle that problem? And can you use technology to scale it? I think this is where people have not done it right. People have tried to go too fast, tried to scale too much, tried to get caught in their own hype. And I think those are probably things to watch out for as we go forward.
I think we had one more question there, and then the gentleman without the mic will surely come to you. Just one more. Okay, you have the mic. Excellent. Why don't we take you first then?
Yeah, thank you. Nice conversation. Two observations and then a couple of questions. One observation, I would have loved to see a teacher in the panel to share the pain points. I don't have one there. I would have loved having one. Yeah, that's one. I understand there was quick buck. Okay, EdTech is still driven by balance sheet, as I understand. They don't understand education. I'm an educator. I understand education, and you don't have, a very rapid path to success in education, right? And I have tested it at my home. I got a home tutor. He was way more engaging than so-called all edtechs could ever do. And I am leading a large business school, so I can tell you my pain points. That every week I get at least 2 knocks on my door from some edtech company, because they still see there is a market over there, and there's a pretty good deal of money over there. But what I don't see, I am no more buoyant about it. I am no more excited about it, I can tell you, because my learning has its own limitation and speed. Again, human learning, because you see, no real mapping has happened. Okay, it's a very shallow understanding of education, which most of the edtech companies have done. I don't know, we still do not have a B.Ed in tech teaching. We don't have one. I'm trying, and I think there's a piece of suggestion for people, decision makers, that can we have a B.Ed in technology teaching? Because my teachers are not yet prepared, first thing. And second, learning is a very complex process, right? It isn't very easy. You still take 12 years to do a +2. Okay, no edtech company can do it in 5-6 years, given all the resources. So my idea is that the quick path to making quick money, okay, has gone the wrong way. It's gone awry. Again, now we are cribbing and crying about it. Okay. So the time has come for edtech companies to sit with educators and understand that Harvard took 400 years to where it is. Okay, and some of the oldest universities, and I'll not tell you that story. BHU is 150 years or more. So you need to sit there, invest money in people, than investing on advertisement or investing somewhere else, which you have done it big time. Okay, invest on people, get teachers on board, convince them. I believe that is what the best thing that edtech companies can do if they want to flourish. Okay, you need to take more teachers, because none of them came to me. Every week I get 2 knocks on my door. None of them ever said, we are ready to handhold 100 teachers of yours. Give it.
So what's the question here?
So yeah, so the question is that are you making enough efforts, including the investors, okay, to train my teachers, okay, making them capable to take this to the students? Are you making enough investments? If not, why? If yes, when is this going to happen? That's the question.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You want to take the
Sir, I have 6,000 teachers at Allen, and our entire tech product is built around heavy teacher interaction and saying, what does it take for a child to learn? Every feature that is being built is designed around academic input.
True, it's content again. It's not experience, gentlemen.
No, it is. Look, it's early days.
It's not. You see, half of education is experience. You spend 1 crore and 50 lakh, okay, in a good degree in the US, right? And for what? Not for content alone, for experience.
I didn't say that it's only content.
Yeah. So thank you.
When I talk about mistake books, when I talk about customized tests, these are inputs from academicians who have come to us to say this is what will help make the child better. In a physical environment, good students start annotating where in their book they made some mistake. This question I got wrong. This question I got wrong. We've just made it into a digital version of that. So that's an academic that's with academic input, and it's not content.
There was one more question there. Okay.
So very quick one. I am a dean of a B school, BIMTech in Greater Noida, and I run a very successful online program. Good marriage between a edtech company and the B school. My question to the panelists is that why are you ignoring vernacular-based education? Because that's a pent-up demand. And my experience has been that my students from a smaller town, they say, please teach me in Hindi or English.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wish they gave me 90 minutes next time, but Vimalji, this question was planted by you, tell me.
No, it was not planted, but I wish I had done that. So we are trying at ADDA, sir. We've already started doing this in 10 vernacular languages. Huge impact and huge results in terms of both adoption and success in terms of actually delivering outcomes of, because like I said, ADDA is in the government job test preparation business, right? So starting from 2020, actually very small experiments even in 2018, but starting from 2020, we deliver our programs in Hindi, English, plus 10 more languages, right? So we are on that journey. Happy to share more offline in terms of what impact have we been able to.
In fact, we as Praxis.
But just to give you a big number, about 12% of our revenue today comes from vernacular work that we do in these 10 languages. Yeah.
See, my vision or my idea was that the way we watch our Netflix in various languages,
Yeah, right.
we should be able to watch the education content in the same
You're
way.
absolutely
We'll
right.
soon be there, sir.
Absolutely right. We just, in fact, we partnered with YouTube and launched 10,000 hours of K-12 content. It was in the news 2 days back. So we partnered with them and actually ran and program managed the entire vernacular content creation for grade 1 to 5. You should please watch that. 10,000 hours of content created in 3 years.
And just to add to build on that point, so and again, vernacular is not just content, right? So the entire ecosystem has to become vernacular,
Yeah.
right? So the faculty,
The
YouTube content,
exams
your
are not
app,
vernacular,
your app,
unfortunately.
you are right. There are today courses. In fact, there are courses on the skilling side. Right? I won't name programs, but some of the modern digital age programs where just because the delivery is happening in vernacular, there is huge adoption, right? But having said that, and to your earlier point, it is technology which is helping us solve that problem, right? Because there is the economy of scale problem also, right? And unless we had leveraged technology, to your earlier question in the panel, we wouldn't have been able to achieve it, right?
Except one last question, I was assuming. Or-
We should close, sir.
Okay, now there's that gentleman at the hand long. Just maybe a quick question. Yeah, okay. Well, fantastic.
Great. So with that, we'll close the session. The speakers are here, of course. May I request Dr. Rajesh to please join us for a group picture?
Okay.
He's not here. Yes. Thank you so much, speaker. Huge round of applause, please. Thank you.